It all started in a place you might not expect to find a monster. Deep in northern Colombia lies the Cerrejón coal mine, one of the largest open-pit coal mines in the entire world. Massive trucks and giant shovels carve away at the earth, digging up the black rock that powers our modern world. But back in 2002, the miners started finding something else. They were digging through layers of rock that were about 60 million years old. This time period is called the Paleocene. It was the world that came right after the dinosaurs disappeared. As they worked, the miners began to notice strange, fossilized leaves and giant turtle shells, hinting at an ancient, lost world hidden within the coal seams. These initial discoveries were exciting, but the real breakthrough came when a student named Jonathan Block from the University of Florida and a paleontologist from the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute named Carlos Jaramillo led a team to investigate. They knew the mine was a window into the past. It was a rare opportunity to see what life was like just a few million years after the asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs. The team was expecting to find fossils of ancient plants and maybe some early mammals, but what they found was going to completely change our understanding of prehistoric life. It was something far bigger and far more incredible than they could have ever imagined. One day, while carefully exploring the layers of exposed rock, a member of the team found a fossil that looked completely out of place. It was a vertebra, a bone, from a creature's backbone. But this wasn't just any vertebra, it was enormous, bigger than any snake vertebra ever seen before. At first, they thought it might belong to some kind of giant ancient crocodile, which were also known to live in the area. But as they looked closer, the shape was unmistakable. The unique structure, the way the bone was formed, told them one thing: this belonged to a snake of truly unbelievable proportions that had slithered through these ancient jungles. The discovery sent a shockwave of excitement through the entire scientific community. Finding a single bone is one thing, but realizing it belongs to a creature that defies belief is another. The team knew they were onto something huge, both literally and figuratively. They had stumbled upon the remains of the largest snake ever known to have existed on our planet. They gave it a name that perfectly captured its epic scale. Titanoboa means titanic boa, and cerrejonensis honors the Cerrejón mine where this incredible beast was first brought to light after 60 million years of being hidden in the earth. The hunt for more pieces of this giant puzzle had officially begun. Finding that first massive vertebra was like finding the first piece of a giant jigsaw puzzle. The science team knew there had to be more. They organized more expeditions to the Cerrejón mine, a place that was now seen as a treasure chest of Paleocene fossils. The work was incredibly difficult. The Colombian heat was intense, and the sheer size of the mine made searching for small fossils feel like looking for a needle in a haystack the size of a city. The paleontologists had to work carefully, often on their hands and knees, scanning the rock faces for any sign of bone. They were racing against time, as the mining operations continued all around them, constantly changing the landscape. Their hard work and persistence paid off in a big way. Over the next few years, the team didn't just find one or two more bones, they managed to uncover vertebrae from nearly 30 different individual Titanoboa snakes. This was an amazing collection of fossils. Having so many different specimens allowed the scientists to get a much better idea of the snake's anatomy and size range. They weren't just looking at a single freak of nature, they were looking at a whole population of giant snakes. Each new bone they found helped to paint a clearer picture of this colossal creature that once ruled the ancient rainforests of South America. One of the most important finds was not just the backbones but fragments of the snake's skull. Snake skulls are incredibly delicate and are made of many small, loosely connected bones. Because of this, they rarely survive the fossilization process. Finding even a few pieces of a Titanoboa's head was a huge stroke of luck. These skull bones were crucial. They helped scientists confirm that Titanoboa was related to modern boa constrictors and anacondas. The shape of the jaw and teeth gave them important clues about what this giant might have eaten, and how it hunted its prey in the murky, swampy waters of its ancient home. The process of getting these fossils from the mine in Colombia to the laboratory in Florida was a major operation. Each fossil had to be carefully jacketed in plaster to protect it during transport. Once they arrived at the museum, the real work began. Scientists and technicians spent thousands of hours meticulously cleaning the rock away from the bones. They used tiny drills like the ones a dentist uses to carefully expose every detail. This slow and patient work allowed them to study the true shape and size of the vertebrae, which would be the key to estimating the unbelievable length and weight of the largest snake our world has ever known. So, just how big was this colossal snake? The answer is mind-boggling. To figure this out, scientists used a clever method. They looked at the relationship between the size of a vertebra and the total body length of living snakes today, like anacondas and boa constrictors. By measuring the giant Titanoboa vertebrae and comparing them to their modern relatives, they could calculate its estimated size. The numbers they came up with were staggering. The team, led by paleontologist Jason Head, concluded that Titanoboa could reach a length of about 13 meters, or around 42 feet. That's longer than a school bus. It makes even the biggest snakes alive today look small in comparison. It wasn't just its length that was impressive, its weight was equally immense. Scientists estimated that a full-grown Titanoboa would have weighed around 1,135 kilograms, or about 2,500 pounds. That's more than a ton. Imagine a snake that weighs as much as a small car or a large bison. The thickest part of its body would have been about 1 meter or 3 feet in diameter. If you were brave enough to try and hug it, you wouldn't even be able to get your arms halfway around it. This incredible bulk means Titanoboa wasn't just the longest snake ever, but also the heaviest, solidifying its title as the undisputed king of snakes. Let's put that into perspective with the snakes we know today. The longest snake alive is the reticulated python, which can sometimes exceed 20 feet. The heaviest is the green anaconda, which can weigh over 500 pounds. Titanoboa was more than twice as long as the longest python and 5 times heavier than the biggest anaconda. If you were to see a Titanoboa slithering next to a green anaconda, the anaconda would look like a little garden snake. This prehistoric monster was in a league of its own, a true giant that pushes the limits of what we thought was biologically possible for a snake to achieve. The sheer size of Titanoboa tells us a lot about the world it lived in. Cold-blooded animals like snakes rely on the temperature of their environment to regulate their body heat. A snake this enormous could only have survived in a very, very warm climate. Its massive body would have needed a constant high temperature to keep its metabolism going. So the discovery of a 42-foot, 2,500-pound snake wasn't just the discovery of a new animal. It was also a giant living thermometer that gave scientists a crucial clue about the climate of the ancient world shortly after the dinosaurs vanished. It told them that the tropics back then were much hotter than they are today. When you look at the bones of Titanoboa, they tell a story about how this giant lived and hunted. The vertebrae, the bones that make up its spine, are incredibly thick and robust. This powerful construction is a clear sign that Titanoboa was a constrictor. Just like its modern relatives, the boa constrictor and the anaconda, it didn't rely on venom to kill its prey. Instead, it used its immense size and unbelievable muscular power. A snake built on this scale would have been the most powerful constrictor of all time. Its body was a massive coil of pure muscle, designed for one purpose: to squeeze the life out of its victims. The process of constriction is truly awesome. A snake like Titanoboa would strike its prey with lightning speed, grabbing it with its jaws full of backward curving teeth. These teeth weren't for chewing, they were for holding on tight, preventing the animal from escaping. Once it had a firm grip, Titanoboa would rapidly wrap its massive body around its prey, forming powerful coils. With each breath the victim took, the snake would tighten its grip just a little bit more. The immense pressure would quickly stop the flow of blood to the brain and other vital organs, leading to a swift and quiet death. For a creature of Titanoboa's size, the force it could generate would have been absolutely crushing. The skull fragments we have, though incomplete, give us more clues. They show that Titanoboa had a head that was large, but perhaps not as disproportionately huge as you might expect for its body size. This is typical for boas and other constrictors. Its jaw structure was highly flexible, allowing it to open its mouth incredibly wide. This is a classic snake adaptation that lets them swallow prey that is much wider than their own head. Titanoboa could have easily swallowed very large animals whole, distending its jaw and stretching its skin to accommodate a massive meal that could sustain it for weeks or even months at a time. Studying the anatomy of this giant helps us visualize it as a living, breathing animal. It wasn't just a long, lazy tube, it was a sophisticated predator, perfectly adapted to its environment. Its powerful muscles would have allowed it to move through the water with surprising grace and speed, propelling its massive body forward like a torpedo. On land, it would have moved more slowly, using its incredible strength to pull its weight across the forest floor. Every part of its body, from the tip of its nose to the end of its tail, was engineered for survival as the top predator in its prehistoric world. To understand an animal like Titanoboa, you have to understand the world it lived in. The snake was discovered in rocks from the Paleocene epoch, a fascinating chapter in Earth's history that lasted from about 66 to 56 million years ago. This was the world that emerged from the ashes of the dinosaur extinction. With the giant dinosaurs gone, there was a huge opportunity for other forms of life to evolve and fill the empty ecological roles. The planet was also much warmer than it is today. Scientists call this a super greenhouse world, with high levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere trapping a lot of heat. The place where Titanoboa lived, modern-day Colombia, was a vast, sprawling wetland. It wasn't a rainforest like the Amazon we see today, but something different. It was a massive coastal swamp, a huge river system flowing into the ancient Caribbean Sea. Imagine a landscape of murky, slow-moving rivers, muddy floodplains, and dense, tropical vegetation under a hazy, humid sky. The fossil plants found alongside Titanoboa's bones, including ancient relatives of palms, bananas, and chocolate trees, paint a picture of a lush, green world. This jungle was a paradise for a giant, water-loving snake. The climate was the key ingredient that allowed a creature like Titanoboa to exist. As a cold-blooded or ectothermic animal, a snake's body temperature is determined by its surroundings. To support the metabolism of a 1-ton reptile, the average yearly temperature had to be incredibly warm. Scientists used the snake's size to calculate what that temperature must have been. Their estimates suggest that the equatorial regions during the Paleocene had an average temperature of around 30 to 34 degrees Celsius, 86 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit. That's, significantly hotter than the same regions today, which average around 27 degrees Celsius, or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. This hot, humid environment was perfect for Titanoboa. The warm water would have been like a comfortable bath, allowing it to conserve energy. The dense jungle and murky rivers would have provided perfect cover for ambushing its prey. This world was a giant, natural incubator. It not only allowed reptiles like Titanoboa to grow to incredible sizes, but it also supported a rich and diverse ecosystem. The discovery of this giant snake, therefore, gave us a powerful tool for understanding the extreme climates of the past, and how life can adapt and thrive in conditions very different from our own. It was a world ruled not by mammals but by giant reptiles. Titanoboa was the king of its jungle, but it wasn't alone. The fossils found in the Cerrejón mine reveal a whole community of other giant creatures that shared the swamp with this colossal snake. It was, honestly, a world of giants. One of the most common neighbors were ancient crocodilians. Several different species have been found, including a group known as Dirosaurids. These were large, long-snouted reptiles perfectly adapted for hunting fish in the sprawling river systems. While not as big as some of the monster Crocs from the age of dinosaurs, they were still formidable predators in their own right, and they would have competed with a young Titanoboa for food. Another giant that shared the water was an enormous turtle named Carbonemys, which means coal turtle. This freshwater turtle had a shell that was nearly 1.8 meters, almost 6 feet long. That's about the size of a small dining table. Carbonemys also had massive, powerful jaws, suggesting it was an active predator that could eat anything from smaller turtles to possibly even crocodilians. With its protective shell, a full-grown Carbonemys would have been a tough animal for any predator to tackle. The presence of such a giant turtle adds to the picture of this Paleocene ecosystem as a place where gigantism was common among the reptiles. The rivers were also teeming with fish, which would have been a primary food source for many of the predators. Among the most impressive were the giant lungfish. Fossils of these fish found at Cerrejón show they could grow to enormous sizes. Lungfish are fascinating creatures because they have the ability to breathe air, which would have been a great advantage in the warm, slow-moving, and likely oxygen-poor waters of the Paleocene swamps. A large lungfish could have provided a substantial meal for a medium-sized Titanoboa or one of the many crocodilians that patrolled the waterways, forming a crucial link in the local food web. This collection of animals gives us a fantastic snapshot of life's recovery after the Great Extinction event. With the dinosaurs gone, reptiles took over the top predator roles in many ecosystems, especially in the warm tropics. The world of Titanoboa was a fierce and competitive one. It was a swampy battleground where giant snakes, giant turtles, and large crocodiles all vied for resources and survival. Understanding this entire community of animals is essential for understanding Titanoboa itself. It wasn't just a monster in isolation. It was the apex predator in a complex and fascinating world of other giants. With a body that big, Titanoboa must have had a massive appetite. So, what was on the menu for a 42-foot-long snake? Based on its size, its environment, and its modern relatives, scientists have a pretty good idea of what it likely ate. Titanoboa was almost certainly the apex predator of its ecosystem, meaning it was at the very top of the food chain. Given its semi-aquatic lifestyle, spending much of its time in the water just like a modern anaconda, its diet would have consisted mainly of the other large animals that shared its river habitat. It was big enough and powerful enough to take on just about anything it wanted. The prime targets for a full-grown Titanoboa were likely the ancient crocodilians, such as the dinosaurs that filled the rivers. A modern green anaconda is famous for being able to hunt and eat caimans, and Titanoboa would have done the same, but on a much grander scale. A battle between a giant snake and a large crocodile would have been an epic clash of prehistoric titans. Titanoboa would use its classic ambush strategy, lying perfectly still in the murky water, waiting for a crocodile to swim by or come to the water's edge. Then, with a burst of speed, it would strike and begin its powerful constriction, a fight it would almost certainly win. The giant turtles, like Carbonimes, would have also been potential prey, although they would have been a much more difficult meal. While the turtle's massive shell offered a lot of protection, a snake as powerful as Titanoboa might have been able to crush it. Alternatively, the snake could have simply constricted the turtle, waiting for it to stick its head or limbs out of the shell before swallowing it whole. The giant lungfish and other large fish that swam in the rivers would have also been a regular part of its diet, especially for younger, smaller Titanoboas that were not yet big enough to tackle the larger reptiles in their neighborhood. Because of its incredibly slow metabolism, a feature of large, cold-blooded predators, Titanoboa would not have needed to eat very often. After consuming a massive meal like a full-grown crocodile, it might not have needed to eat again for many months or perhaps even up to a year. It would spend its time slowly digesting its food, resting in the warm water or basking on a riverbank. This hunting strategy, expending a huge amount of energy in a short burst to secure a giant meal, and then resting for a long time, is very efficient. It allowed Titanoboa to maintain its colossal size and reign as the undisputed king of the ancient Colombian swamps. The discovery of Titanoboa is much more than just a cool story about a giant snake. It has profound scientific importance and has taught us a great deal about our planet's past. First and foremost, Titanoboa acts as a giant thermometer for the ancient world. Because the maximum size of a cold-blooded animal is directly linked to the temperature of its environment, the sheer existence of a 2,500-pound snake tells us that the tropics during the Paleocene were much hotter than we previously thought. This finding helps scientists refine their models of past climates and better understand how Earth systems respond to high levels of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. Titanoboa also provides a spectacular window into how life recovers after a mass extinction. The dinosaurs were wiped out 66 million years ago, and Titanoboa lived just 6 to 8 million years later. Its discovery shows that, in the absence of large dinosaur predators, other groups of animals evolved to fill those top predator roles. In the hot tropical swamps of South America, it was the reptiles that rose to dominance. Titanoboa, along with the giant turtles and crocodiles it lived with, demonstrates that life can be incredibly resilient, and that new giants can emerge to rule the world when the opportunity arises. It's a powerful lesson in evolution and ecological recovery. Furthermore, this giant snake helps us understand the concept of gigantism and the biological limits of life. What are the physical and environmental factors that allow an animal group to evolve to such extreme sizes? Titanoboa pushes the known boundaries for snakes and forces scientists to ask new questions. How did its heart pump blood all the way down its 42-foot body? How did its respiratory system work? How did it manage to support its own immense weight? Studying the anatomy and the world of Titanoboa provides a case study in the evolution of giant forms and the incredible adaptability of life on Earth. Finally, the location of the discovery is also significant. Finding Titanoboa in South America provides important clues about the origins and spread of boa-like snakes around the world. It suggests that this group of snakes may have originated in the tropical regions of the ancient southern supercontinent, Gondwana, and then spread to other parts of the world. Each fossil, no matter how large or small, adds a piece to the puzzle of biogeography, the study of how and why plants and animals live where they do. Titanoboa is not just a monster, it is a critical data point in the grand story of life's journey across our planet. Few prehistoric creatures have captured the public's imagination quite like Titanoboa. The idea of a snake longer than a bus and heavier than a car is the stuff of myths and legends, yet the fossil evidence proves it was very real. Titanoboa has become a true celebrity of the prehistoric world, starring in documentaries, museum exhibits, and even video games. There's just something primal and awe-inspiring about a giant snake that taps into our collective consciousness. This excitement is fantastic for science as it gets people, especially kids, interested in paleontology and the incredible history of our planet. It reminds us that Earth's past was filled with wonders we are only just beginning to uncover. Despite all that we have learned, there are still many mysteries surrounding Titanoboa. The primary challenge for scientists is the incompleteness of the fossil record. While we have many vertebrae and a few precious skull fragments, a complete skeleton has never been found. Without a full skull, it's difficult to be absolutely certain about its exact diet or how it hunted. Without limb bones, which snakes don't have, or skin impressions, we can only guess what its coloration might have been. Paleontologists dream of one day finding a more complete specimen, which could answer so many of our remaining questions about this amazing beast. The search for more fossils continues. Paleontologists are still exploring the Cerrejón mine and other sites of a similar age across South America, hoping to find more pieces of the Titanoboa puzzle. They are also looking for other animals that lived alongside it to build an even more detailed picture of its entire ecosystem. Every new fossil, no matter how small, adds to our understanding. Scientists are also using advanced technology like CT scans on the existing fossils to reveal hidden details about their internal structure, which can provide new insights into the snake's biology and lifestyle without ever having to damage the precious bones. Titanoboa is a powerful symbol of discovery. It shows us that there are still incredible secrets buried beneath our feet, waiting to be found. It is a testament to the fact that our planet has hosted forms of life far stranger and more magnificent than we could ever invent in our stories. As research continues, we can only hope to learn more about this real-life monster and the lost world it inhabited. The legend of Titanoboa will continue to inspire awe and curiosity, encouraging the next generation of scientists to keep digging, keep questioning, and keep exploring the spectacular, deep history of life on Earth.